Today on the MedicalSalesU podcast, we have DeVaughn Crawford. DeVaughn joined our program and he had a lot going on. He was about to get married and he also said, hey, I want to move to Denver, Colorado. And I'm like, those are two big challenges here. And so on this podcast, if you're thinking about joining our program and you want to break into medical device sales or pharmaceutical, and you have a lot going on in your life right now, a lot of challenges, a lot of unknowns, this episode is for you. DeVaughn, great to have you on the podcast. Thanks for joining this program and welcome to the studio here in Columbus, Ohio.
Pleasure to be here, Dave. Excited to dive deep into this and share my story and experience with people who might need it as well.
Well, you brought a lot of encouragement, a lot of energy to our program and just to watch your growth. But, you've had a lot going on these last few months. Right. Congratulations. You got married.
Thank you.
And congratulations. You just landed a great new job in medical device sales in Denver, the place where you wanted to move.
All right.
And so talk to us, take us back. You're living in Louisville, Kentucky, and you're thinking, I want to get into medical device sales. What made you reach out to me? How did that whole, do you remember that conversation, how we connected at first?
Yeah, definitely. It's funny because I was just talking about this last night with one of my friends who's actually here in Columbus. But I remember being on LinkedIn, kind of doing my grind, and I came across Corey's profile. He kind of randomly popped up on my page.
Oh, Corey Stewart.
Corey Stewart, yeah.
Okay, yes.
And I saw that he had in his heading, it said future medical device leader. And I was like, that's kind of interesting to put there. But I was like, man, I don't think I should add him. Like, he might not add any real value to what I'm trying to accomplish. I only want to add people who, have the titles for the jobs that I want. But something made me circle back to him. And I reached out and he connected with me and we had a phone call. And when we had that phone call, he had just told me that he accepted a job with Pfizer. And I was like, wow, man, that's great. And he was having a baby and we just had a great conversation. Corey's an amazing person. Then he mentioned you and he's like, well, I have a guy named Dave who has this program and, he really helped me. And I had cycled with the fact of having a coach and I've talked to other people in the past and, they just maybe didn't align with my goals at the time. I reached out to Dave and, next thing you know, I'm in the cohort and learning more about, the process than I ever thought that I would in any given moment. So, had that phone call with Dave and, the rest is history.
Wow. And that's just such an encouragement to our community too. And in fact, I was just thinking, you mentioned Corey Stewart. He joined our program like you, going through a lot of life change. His was a baby on the way.
Right.
He had tried, he had made it to the final round multiple times. He was a nurse, just never landed that job offer. And he joined, got a great job with Pfizer, and his interest in is even in our chat. I saw him last night. Someone else in our program is interviewing with Pfizer and, just to have the community there of someone who's gone there, maybe they're not even that far ahead. It's just maybe a couple months ahead of where you want to go. Okay. Now, talk to us a little bit about you're living in Louisville, Kentucky, right? And you wanted to move to Denver and you also are engaged during this whole time. Talk to us about, you had a wedding during this whole program. And then also, why did you want to move to Colorado?
Right. Me and my now wife, we were in a very, difficult place with trying to decide how we were going to go about financing this wedding for one. And then, also pulling off a total career change and life change by moving to Denver. I was also working another job at that time too to kind of help finance the expenses of the wedding. So there were a lot of challenges and obstacles in place, but I think I kind of saw the vision. And Denver is a place that we've always wanted to be. We love the mountains. We love the outdoors. We wanted to be closer to some of the national parks. And, I believe they have like 300 days of sunshine there in Denver. So it sounds like the place that you want to be in. We both decided to just lock in and do everything that we needed to get there. And we have a really great basis in Louisville. We love our friends. We love our families, everything there. But the opportunity with Med Device and being in a place that we wanted to be just kind of seemed like, why not go for it? Why not do everything we can? It's a year, of being engaged and planning to get married. Like, let's just put everything into one basket, maybe wouldn't advise that all the time, but we had a plan going forward, and we definitely made sure that we took the right steps to get there. And she was nothing but supportive to me, and I probably wouldn't have this if it wasn't for her. But I'm so thankful for all the nights that she kept me going, and all the classes that I got to have with you, Dave, and just even my own due diligence to instead of going to bed at 11, I had a mindset like, well, if I go to bed now, someone else is going to apply to that job that if I would have stayed up and applied for, I would have got. So just being hungry to make this life change, I think, was a key component in it kind of coming to fruition.
You had a lot going on. You're working full time. I always say that those who do so well in our program are people like yourself. I knew you were going to succeed because you're working your full-time job. You have a side job on top of that, and you're planning for a wedding, and you're doing this in the evenings. You're doing this on the side. And that's like with our program. Like, there's other programs out there where you have to go and you move there. You can do it full time. This is best for working professionals who can do our program on the side. Now, tell us a little bit about that main job, because you have a science background, and also, so tell us a little bit about that, because you're working in the hospital, correct?
Yeah, so I was a project manager for head and neck cancer research at the Brown Cancer Center at the University of Louisville. So my background comes from research, started off in emergency medicine at the University of Cincinnati, then moved up to a lead coordinator role in neurology, working with myasthenia gravis patients. And then from there, I moved to the Christ Hospital, still in Cincinnati, Ohio, working in precision medicine, which is, probably the closest type of pharma sales role-esque type job that I've had.
Yes.
And then from there, moved on to the ENT space at the University of Louisville. So really enjoyed working in the research space. You get a lot of access to things that you might not necessarily have as far as specialty wise. I got the opportunity to work in so many areas of medicine that it really diversified my, medical profile, and, allowed me to have patient contact, allowed me to build really close relationships with, primary internal medicine physicians and surgeons alike. I got to be in the OR for certain studies and, collect biopsies or consent patients before they went back for their procedures. So just gained a lot of that experience, or a lot of the, kind of responsibilities that you'll need to move into the med device or pharmaceutical space in a research position.
You had so many moving parts in a clinical trial, the research you're working with in the lab, also interacting with the surgeons, with the doctors, those in research who have their PhDs, a lot of administration, a lot of, working with different types of people, even the patients you mentioned, getting their consent as well. Talk to us a little bit about, how did you even get into that area there? Like, did you have a science? You didn't have a science back. Like, what was your degree? How did you land those first jobs? In that area.
Kind of a weird instance. So my bachelor's is in political science.
It is science, though.
So I really wanted to be a lawyer. At least I thought I did. I kind of had a strong push in that direction. And, as I was going throughout my undergrad, I was saying, okay, I'm going to be a lawyer by the end of this, and taking all the steps to make that happen. And then, I got to my senior year and kind of had a change of heart. But, at that point I had done everything already. The next step was law school. And I was like, well, what other direction can I take? And it's funny enough, my mom was actually working with another one of the lead coordinators at the Christ Hospital. They would come over and, they had some one of their trials had to do with newborn babies. But my mom was really close with this person, and she ended up telling her, like, hey, my son is getting ready to graduate from college, and he's looking to move into like the healthcare space. Are you able to help with that? And she got my number, got my information, and connected me with the hiring manager for that role. And had an interview and heard back really quickly. And, I jumped into, being a research coordinator in emergency medicine, had no idea what I was getting into, but couldn't be more thankful for that role. It was very intensive. I'm coming from not a biology background, so really just had to learn and ask the right questions. And just, the biggest thing for me was not being afraid. You're working in the ED space. There's patients who are coming in critically. They need this emergent care, but, they might qualify for a study and you have to stand up and ask in a room full of doctors and residents and say, hey, this patient qualifies, we need to do this. And, it takes a lot of courage and a lot of uncertainty, but once you really grasp it and understand what you're here to do, you can kind of see the impact of the whole process. So very thankful for that role, but got to thank my mom for getting me started in that.
Yeah. And sometimes, there are individuals who may be too prideful. They may be like, I want to do this on my own. Mm-hmm. I don't want help. I don't want my parents, whatever. I always say leverage whatever relationship we have. If it's a parent, if it's a friend, if it's hiring a coach to help speed up the process. Now you're working this full-time job, and you also go back and you get your MBA and you pursue. Tell us about that. What made you decide to get your MBA? You pursued it at night, I believe, correct?
Yeah. So it was kind of at the beginning stages of me wanting to break into med device or pharma. Yeah. Just simply looking at my resume, I'm like, I have the healthcare experience, I have my bachelor's, but I really wanted to diversify, my resume, my background, and I wanted to build that business acumen to show that, hey, I have a bachelor's in political science, I work in the healthcare field, and now I also have my master's. So kind of being a jack of all trades. So I decided to go back and be in the UC offered an accelerated master's program. So I jumped into that, and it was definitely a lot trying to balance, being a full-time student as well as working full-time. But I wanted to, kind of get it finished as quickly as possible. To those listening, take your time if you need to. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. But, I got it done. And, once I got that under my belt, it was kind of just checking a box. It was like, okay, now I have this. The next step is applying it. Let's get a presence on LinkedIn, which I definitely didn't have. And we can get into that later. But, kind of jumping in there and taking what I had accomplished and utilizing it to push me and get the momentum to eventually end up where I am now.
Yeah, and I just think about your story. The people that come to us, I think you are far above. Now, we have people that are MDs and nurse practitioners. What I like about your background when people come to us is one is the adaptability. And you have to be very smart. Like if you have a political science background and you have to learn the science of these clinical trials, right? And you're in the hospital. So you have that experience that some people don't have. On top of that, there's a grit and a grind for you to pursue an MBA on top of that. Now, here's the key. There are other people who have maybe something similar. And they think it's just going to be easy. I did this. I'm just going to get medical sales job. I should get a job offer. Yeah. I'm more qualified than so-and-so. But talk to us about that experience, because it's not easy, even with your adaptability into science, even with getting an MBA on top of that, it's still very competitive.
Right.
Did you think, when you were applying to these jobs, did you think it was going to be this hard?
Honestly, I did not. I was like, I have all of this on my resume, my background, in healthcare. Like I'm a shoo-in candidate for these roles. So once I was able to kind of narrow it down, I'm like, I'm going to apply. I should be getting calls back and interviews, no problem. They're easily going to just look at my resume and be like, this is a guy we want to talk to. And, that's going to be that. I'll have a job in no time. But after maybe the 50th application of, just not hearing back or getting that, thanks for your interest email where you didn't get the job, you start to kind of reevaluate and look at, okay, what am I doing wrong? What am I not doing? Where else could I be applying this process? So, and again, I'm certainly not the smartest person. I just applied myself. I think the biggest thing was never giving up. Even though I wasn't getting the job, it was, I'm going to get the job.
Yes.
I just have to keep, working, have to keep applying. Eventually I'm going to have that conversation with the right person. And things will kind of pan out the way that they should. But, just being persistent and realizing that, like you said, it's not an easy process and it's very easy to give up. But once you make it through the murky waters, the things start to get a lot clearer for you.
Yeah. What about my program? You join this community, you join the program, MedicalSalesU, you're already doing a lot of the right things. I think when we connected, you were already on the golf course. You had I think you went golfing with what company was that?
It was the VP of Carl Stores.
Yeah, one of the large companies. And you were already out networking in person, was I believe is still extraordinary, is so important. You already have your MBA, you already have the science background, but you joined the program. In our program, you probably know a lot of these things, what I was telling you to do, but did you learn anything new? And was there anything that maybe helped you along the way being a part of this community, MedicalSalesU?
Yeah, right. Certainly. I was definitely doing a lot before joining the program, but I think that you helped structure a lot of the pieces that maybe I just didn't have all together. So, the interview process, using the STAR method and kind of, I think one of the things we talked about was how I can talk an awful lot and just kind of figuring out how to circle back in on the main points and focusing in on the key things that the interviewer wants to hear. And then the biggest thing for me was the business plan. I still have the one that I made the very first time I made a business or heard about a business plan, and the very first one I created and used in my application process. So if we were able to pull those up side by side, you could see the clear difference in how my business plan through MedicalSalesU was versus the one that I made independently. Maybe that's to just say I didn't take the time, but there's definitely things that I would not have included if I had not have joined your program. So it brought a lot of clarity for me, and just being in a cohort of people who are all trying to achieve, who are all looking to, better themselves and, are happy to share in the accomplishments of everyone else in the group. We would see people get jobs and it was nothing but praise. And it's motivating, you see that and you're like, I really want to take the time to make sure that I can be that next person to get that as well. So,
you mentioned several things. I think one is we talked about the interview. We talked about the STAR, and a lot of people, most people listening, they know the STAR framework and the interviews, how we're supposed to talk about situation, task, the action steps, and then the results. So we practice it. I do remember, and I'm just amazed now, when you talk now, you're just confident, like you're calm, you're confident. I think early on, one of the things I talk about with our members is cadence. When we first interact on the phone, you were very energetic. This is what I do. I do this, and this, and this, and this. You were so over the top. Yeah. It was too much. I said, that's good. But to some people hiring managers, it may come across as cocky. Right. If you can switch it up. And I say, calm down a little bit. I have that enthusiasm, but then be calm. Right. The cadence, the mixing it up so much. There's others in our program that are just so calm the whole time. I'm like, hey, you need to show some enthusiasm. You need to bring some life into this, show cadence. And I think that was one of the things that we practice. And just hearing you in the program, you got so good at balancing that cadence, mixing up that enthusiasm with, I'm DeVaughn Crawford, and I'm still working on it. I have bad habits with my speaking, and even my wife will listen to these podcasts and says, you keep saying the same thing over and over again. And even yesterday, she critiqued me on something, but we need that. And I think that's the advantage of being part of a community, a cohort, is we practice, we sharpen each other up, we get better. Right. You have me as a coach to guide you, but then you have your teammates. And sometimes it's just like this last week, we had a guy who landed a job with Sanofi, right? He's making a base of like $200,000, and he's sharing insights to the rest of our team. And someone else joined who was with Medtronic. She took a leave, and now she's wanting to reinvent herself, get into a new specialty. We help each other. Persistence, though. Even with all of this, you got rejected. Even with networking, even with the community, what kept you going in this whole process to land this job?
Right. Definitely, like you said, persistence. It was nothing short of a learning curve. I can attribute it to a lot of different things, but, most importantly, you just got to have it in you. There is a level of confidence that you need to have to be successful in a field like this, whether it's med device or whether it's, pharma. Being able to learn, also being a sponge.
Yeah.
You don't want to come in just being overly cocky or thinking you know how to do everything. You want to show that you're prepared and you can handle the challenges in front of you, but you also want to learn from the people who are already shortening the learning curve for you. And with all those denials and not getting the job or not getting responses back, it hurt a little bit, but it never took me out of the game.
Yeah.
I knew that this was something that I was going to get into. It just took some time, but I would have, even if I didn't have it now, I still wouldn't have given up, no matter how many no's I've gotten. So like I said, it's just the process of understanding that it's going to be tough, but if you stand up to it, you're going to get in. So just be persistent and, network with people, connect with new people, take as many notes and as much advice as you can from folks who are already in the industry and even those who are trying to break in as well. You never know what you're going to learn from somebody.
When you joined our program, you were on the golf course, networking in person with one of the VPs at stores, and you were in Louisville, Kentucky. I told you, this is so hard. We've had a number of members in our program do it. Tim left New York. He just landed a job with Bristol Myers Squibb in Florida. It's hard to interview in a different state. I know from experience. I was living in Dallas, Texas, fell in love during COVID. I didn't have pharma experience. I was in device and diagnostics, and I wanted to move to Columbus, Ohio. And I landed a job with Sanofi, but it was hard because I didn't have any relationships here. Now, I did show up, and I met like 2 people for coffee. I did a little bit of networking, but it was hard. Right. I told you it was hard with this. Talk to us about this opportunity. How did you see it posted? How did you apply? And how did you even network or what? How did this land? Because you're living in Louisville and you land this job in Denver, Colorado.
Yeah. It's really interesting when I came across Cooper Surgical on LinkedIn. I connected with the hiring manager first. And,
okay.
It's one of those rare instances where, you can connect with a hiring manager and get a response from them. We had a conversation on the phone and he was really great. Just from the start of the conversation to the end, I could tell that this was a team that I wanted to be a part of. And I was going to do whatever it took to make that happen. So, I started connecting with some of the other people on his team to build relationships there.
And let me just stop you there. How did you get their number? Did you ask him, like, who else can I connect with on your team? Or how did you get their numbers to reach out? Or did he encourage it?
Yeah, so I just kind of followed a process of typing in, like, this company and the role that, that they had there, or just any of the other roles. I went on to their the career site and looked at some of the different roles that they had there. Then I would just go back to LinkedIn and type in Cooper Surgical Associate Sales Rep or, surgical sales rep, and they would pop up and I would just add them. They were in the Denver territory.
Yes.
So I made sure to make the filters to where it showed Denver, Colorado.
And we go into details all in our program when we teach this for our listeners is we talk about networking, and some people are like, oh, well, I got an internal referral. Okay, first of all, was that internal referral? Do they know the hiring manager? We go into detail how you need to get the right internal referral if you get it. But then don't just stop networking. Well, I talked to this person and this person, or my aunt or my cousin. I got a good friend from my fraternity who is going to, refer me, right? We say keep networking. Who else can you reach out to? And one thing that we teach is on LinkedIn allows about 100 ads every week.
Right.
Now, we tell our people this, but sometimes we need to keep on accountable with this. But then to narrow the focus. Sometimes you see these people on LinkedIn, they have like 10,000 followers or whatever. I'm like, are these just random ad? We say go to the company, put in the title of the position, and try to add them close to your state if possible. Reach out to them, connect with them. And then we tell our people, like, if you have a good conversation, say, hey, this has been very helpful. Is there someone else that you can introduce me to? So the things that you're doing, the things that you did, you already talked to the hiring manager, but you're still continuing to network. Tell us about some of those conversations. Did you learn more about the product, the culture, the company?
Yeah. So the first conversation I had after that was really, really great. She helped me, understand what the role was going to essentially entail. And then some of the products. And then she also gave me a lot of insight to the interview process and, speaking with the hiring manager and hearing someone else's perspective on, what the hiring manager is looking for is great information going into an interview. So, I prepared a presentation. I had all my ducks in a row. I made a slide where it was, all the products and how they work, just to show that, I've done my due diligence. I've researched what products I would be focused on. They have like a focus products and how they work and, how they're implemented into the patient population that I'll be working with. So it's more than just, talking and connecting. It's doing your due diligence too to, make sure you're aware of, what that role is going to look like, what type of products it's going to have, and who you're going to be working with in the process.
I love it. You follow the method, that you follow the steps, and then every company, every culture is a little bit different. Every hiring manager is a little bit different. So if you can get intel into like what do they want, that's always helpful. And I also say, look, in our presentations, in our customized business plans, and in our PowerPoints, they need to be a little bit different, right? Our method is a little bit different. We talk about giving that business plan early, and then as we learn more and we grow, then we have those customized PowerPoints. But it's so good also to make sure that you know the product. So many people come and they're like, I'm going to figure it out on my own. I'm like, okay, that's good. What do you know about the product? What was the clinical trial that received the FDA approval? Who's the major competition? Who are the doctors that you're going to target in your first 90 days who will be likely to order this product? And when I ask these questions, and especially when it's some guy who's like an athlete, he's like, I got grit. Well, you say you have grit, but you didn't answer any of these questions.
Right.
How much grit did you have in this preparation? I don't care if you're a former D1 athlete. So are you and the other 7 people applying to this job as well. And you did all the steps and you overcame, I think, a major obstacle, and that is a different state. Talk to us a little bit about that, because some hiring managers are like, well, do you know this? You haven't lived here, right? How did you know? How did they know that you were the one? And how did they give you this opportunity to move from Louisville to Denver?
Yeah. I think a little bit of it was the rapport that I was able to build over the time through, connecting with the other reps on the team and, making that good connection with the hiring manager, but also just my confidence in being able to do the job. In this role, I'll be covering multiple territories outside of just Colorado.
Okay.
So, it's going to be a learning curve.
You'll have some overnights.
Yeah, definitely have some overnights.
How big is your territory?
So I'll be covering 6 states.
Wow.
Yeah. So Colorado, Utah, Nevada, Idaho, Wyoming, Montana.
You're going to see the Wild West.
Yeah, it's all the mountain states. So.
Man. You get a company car?
No company car, but
car allowance?
Car allowance.
Okay, the car allowance.
Big
That's
car
good.
allowance, yeah.
I'm like, you're going to be putting some miles on that
Right.
car allowance.
Yeah.
That's so good. I've done both. I've done jobs where I cover multiple states and others with, and there's pluses and minuses, right?
Right.
For different seasons. And, but I like the experience I've had. medical sales has taken me so many different states. I've been able to see so many things, interact with different doctors across the country in this. Let's talk a little bit about, let's talk to our audience, people that are navigating major moves, big life changes. Maybe they're engaged, maybe they're about to get married, maybe they're wanting to move. Maybe like Corey, the guy that here in Columbus, that you listened to his episode, or I think you saw his post, you reached out to him. He had a baby on the way. Yeah. We've had a number of people who have had children on the way. They joined our program. But change is hard, right? Talk to our audience about, they feel like life is too complicated or busy to enroll in MedicalSalesU and do this. Talk to that person. Why is this important for the person going through all those life changes?
Right. In a sense, you kind of have to find a way to slow things down. It's easy to kind of sit back and say, I'm too busy for this, I'm too busy for that. But look at the other things that you give your time to. If it's not productive in moving you forward to what you want to achieve, maybe that's something you can cut out and, devote that time to a program like MedicalSalesU. It definitely, you definitely need to find ways to bring order to the chaos, whether that's getting organized or, doing something different that you don't typically do or whatever you give your time to. Instead of watching your favorite show at 8:00 at night, maybe jump on LinkedIn and try to connect with a few other people, or, start working on a business plan or do something that you don't typically do. And it might not have to be directly in like a fashion to break into med device or pharmaceutical sales. Start making a to-do list of just daily life activities that you can, kind of check off and get those little wins. Those checking off a box of something that you've done gives you so much fulfillment. And, just seeing that and then taking that and applying it to, your goals and what you want to achieve. And Dave does a great job at helping you center those things and allowing you to kind of figure out, how can we bring, again, order to some of the things that you have going on? Now let's implement a plan to get you into med device or get you into pharma, and show you how to succeed in that organization process as well.
You mentioned like even checking things off. I like that it's not just medical sales, it's habits, it's your whole life. You grew your LinkedIn profile a lot. I remember, I think when you first joined, you didn't have a lot of connections, right?
Yeah.
And now you have a lot. Like, do you happen to know?
I got 500 plus. I haven't looked, but when I started, I was like 200.
Like you went from like 200. I'm like, you need to get more people, and you've grown that. All right, let's talk about some fun things here. You're moving to Denver. What are you most excited about Denver right now?
Definitely the sunshine. Definitely ready to get back out and start hiking and seeing some beautiful scenery. Oddly enough, I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio.
Yeah.
I love Cincinnati, like born and raised. And the first time I went to Denver, I went to this bar. I think it was called like Yard House or Field House. I can't remember. And the Rockies were playing the Reds, and I walked in, and a guy turned around and he was wearing a Skyline Chili shirt. Yeah. And it felt like I was downtown Cincinnati, and I was like, man, this is a place that I could definitely see myself. It's just like imagining if Cincinnati had mountain ranges in the background. So, it feels like home to me, and, I'm excited to meet new people and do new things. So very much looking forward to that. So you visited
a number of times out.
Yeah, I've been out there about 3 times. Yeah. Enjoyed every single time.
So. When you went out there, what did you enjoy? Like, do you remember where you went hiking or what you did when you were out there?
Yeah, I went to Red Rock and like Mount Lookout and like saw the amphitheater. And those are really the only 2 places that we went hiking. Yeah. But then, went out with the 2 times I was there, it was kind of like in a celebratory. One was for a birthday, one was for a bachelor party. So we were doing a lot of fun things, but we did get to, experience some of the nature out there too. So it was very beautiful.
Wow. Are you going to tackle any of those 14, those huge mountains when you're out there?
Yeah, we'll see how I got to do some training first. And then
I remember, what is the one, Pikes Peak? I remember the first time I tried to go up Pikes Peak. I went with some friends, and it was a season of my life. I made it halfway up, and I was so winded. Yeah. Just the elevation. I remember it being hot down, we got up early in the morning, and I was just so winded. You can feel it changing in the way you're breathing. And I didn't make it. The second time I tried it, I didn't make it. I'd gotten in a lot better shape. I was doing more cardio. And I remember like it's hot down at the bottom, but by the time you get to the top, it's snowing. And it's just an amazing, beautiful experience. I think you're going to love it. I'm not really a skier. I haven't skied for years. But I think, there's, a beautiful place in Colorado. Let's talk about it here. Do you know, okay, let me ask you this question. Cincinnati, Reds fan?
Definitely a Reds fan.
Definitely all the time. Reds fan. Where did you go undergrad, by the way?
University of Toledo.
Yeah. You mentioned the sunshine. That is one thing, because I moved here to Ohio like 5 years ago. Man, we are missing out on the sunshine. Yeah.
It can definitely have some really nice days here in Ohio. But, it's coupled with a lot of the changing seasons. So, you get those really cloudy days or rainy days or, now the snowy kind of days. But I think it's starting to clear up. We had some warmer temperatures here the past couple of days. So
wow, that's great. Now, your wife, she's got a job there too?
Yes. Yeah. So she's going to be doing travel PT.
Okay.
So
Physical therapy.
Yeah, physical therapy.
Wow.
So she's excited about that and getting started. So just a lot of new beginnings for us both.
Yeah.
You know, both new jobs, both moving to a new state. Lots to be excited about.
Man, I'm so happy for you. DeVaughn, one, thanks for entrusting this program. I am so excited for your future. This is just the beginning, right? Like, this is just the start. One of the hardest things, I think, is actually breaking in to medical device or pharma sales. You did it. You persisted. So congratulations.
Thank you so much, Dave. Appreciate all your help throughout the process and guiding me and, you know, everyone else in the program along. And, you know, to those listening and in Dave's program, it's going to happen. Just trust in Dave and give us some time and you'll reach the goal that you're looking for.
Yeah. And we're going to be in touch and we'll see you again, maybe out in Denver.
Sounds good.
If you're trying to break into medical device or pharmaceutical sales, or maybe you're ready to reinvent yourself into a new specialty like oncology, our program, MedicalSalesU, can help.
I'm extremely grateful for Dave Starrett and his program, MedicalSalesU.
I'm now making $60,000 more than I was as a pharmacist.
I highly recommend the program. I just landed an incredible dream job.
Our members come from every background: nurses, pharmacists, teachers, athletes, and they're breaking in fast, averaging $151,875 in 11 and a half weeks. Many are earning over $200K. The industry is changing lives. You can change lives. Check us out, MedicalSalesU. Invest in yourself, and let's get you in the game.